Here now to discuss Maddie Doppler, a National Taxpayer Union Senior Fellow, Danielle DiMartino Booth, former Dallas Fed advisor. All right, Maddie, I got to start with you.
Okay.
You know, listen, we saw news on Thursday that helped the market rally pretty good here with respect to China's market. I had a big go with Stewart on Wednesday because the data I'm seeing out of China makes me feel like they want to do a deal, that they need to do a deal, despite the fact that you've got this strong man in charge. So are you optimistic, even guardedly, that maybe we can get something done before the year's over?
Charles, I am the eternal optimist. I thought you knew that about me. But I think if you look at China, I think what you're identifying there is a weakness and a slowdown in their markets. But listen, we have to be mindful of what's happening in the United States as well. Not only have we had this tit for tat on tariffs and a question of what the objective is to accomplish there, but remember, the president just signed into law the National Defense Act, which increased the strength and strengthened our Committee on Foreign Investment. That is one of the durable institutions that we have that monitors investment here in the United States, and it has strengthened its role in surveying what China is trying to do when it invests in the United States. So that's one of those bodies that really will go after some of the threats the United States and the administration has claimed have been the reason for the tariffs, mainly IP theft, tax transfers, that sort of thing. So that's happening right now. So it makes sense that we're seeing the Chinese maybe start to give a little bit on these negotiations.
And as strong as CFIUS, right? I mean, that process also has been buffered, built up a little bit more. Danielle, the role of China, we know tariffs, and that debate has gone on to the point where it's like boring to me. Now, in the real world, we are seeing remarkable economic data in America, and we're seeing remarkable confidence. How important is it, though, that we do get a deal before this whole thing spirals out of control?
Well, it's very important. You know, I was listening to your last guest, and, he made a comment there about Walmart and Amazon going toe-to-toe. And what a lot of investors missed yesterday in Walmart's announcement was that their operating margins had declined by 3.7% over the prior quarter. And they attributed that to rising costs. We're seeing non-labor costs rise. And, of course, we're seeing the cost of labor rise. And companies cannot sustain these types of conditions for very long before they start to say what we've seen out of Procter & Gamble, what we've seen out of Kimberly-Clark. So I do hope that we make forward progress with China so that we can allow companies' margins to take a breather and not be under so much pressure going forward. All
right. Well, speaking of our earnings, ladies, today President Trump tweeted out a proposal to look into ending these quarterly earnings reports and maybe, following a European model, coming out every 6 months. I got to be honest with you, it's something that I felt we'd needed for a very long time. Danielle, what are your thoughts on that?
Somebody asked me on Twitter today, what I felt, what my reflection was after hearing the news, and I replied #maturity. Because I think that it is to the point where companies cannot even be mature in how they approach business and long-term investing opportunities because they feel that they're under the gun every 180 days. It's ridiculous. I think it's just a fabulous. People who've been in the investment community for as long as we have, Charles, we've been vying for something like this to come about for a very long time, and I was pleased with the SEC's answer.
Maddie, you're one of those economic purists, though. I think you may have some misgivings with this.
I'm one of those people who thinks transparency is good. So I know, and I am sympathetic to this argument that this creates a lot of tension for companies and really disallows for forward guidance in a way that is productive. But I think that there needs to be a balance here between transparency for shareholders and what's happening in these businesses. Now, is a quarterly report the way to do that? I don't know. I'm happy and welcome to look at other ideas. But, the president tweeting it out always puts more pressure than for things to change than if it were just an idea that was being volleyed about by Wall Street investors.
I'm getting to wrap, but I got to ask you quickly, Danielle, the Jackson Hole next week. Are you anticipating any fireworks?
I actually think a lot of the doves at the Fed are hoping that the neutral rate is lower, that the rate of growth in the economy is lower than what I think Jay Powell thinks it is. So I'm hoping that we see a little bit of tension between Jay Powell, the pragmatist, and the old guard PhDs at the Fed. I'm hoping for it.
All right. Prince would say when doves cry. I had to throw it in. It was corny, but I had to throw it in. All right, ladies, have a great weekend. Talk to you again soon.
You too, Charles. Thanks.
Hey,